Welcome to The Pastor Who Hated Church. Follow Elvis Jung on his journey of redemption. Chapter 8. The next day, Elvis arrived before anyone else. He wanted to think and pray about what to do. If he kept his mouth shut, he might be able to create the ministry he hoped it would be. Then again, if he told people what he had learned, it would tear the church apart. This was the kind of moral breakdown that should be exposed to preserve the integrity of the church. If he exposed the affair, this would be the kind of story that would be splattered all over the papers and only confirm to the world that the church is made up of a bunch of hypocrites. Elvis wanted to do the right thing, but he just couldn't decide what the right thing actually was. As he sat in his office, Harlan Finnegan burst in without knocking.
"You, come with me, now," he ordered.
Elvis followed Harlan to Archibald's office. Once inside, he was confronted by Archibald and the Board of Deacons. Elvis took his usual position in the hot seat.
"Imagine my surprise this morning to discover that Max Planck joined St. John's Church. What is our highly esteemed choir director doing at another church?" barked Harlan.
Elvis raised his eyebrows. "Well, yesterday he quit." "Quit? Why did he quit?" asked Bob Crabb, one of the deacons. "He told me he didn't want to direct Handel's Messiah again. I told him that was the decision of, well," he looked at Archibald as he paused, "Pastor Wingate." Harlan placed his hands on his hips and stood over Elvis.
"This is typical of you, blaming Pastor Wingate for your failures. You have much to learn about life, young man. You were brought into this church to handle worship and education at this church. The buck, as it were, stops with you. If you don't know how to handle the responsibility, then you shouldn't have taken the position. This isn't amateur hour. This is Evergreen Community Church. We demand a certain level of professionalism. I don't want you courting my niece or blaming others for your incompetence. Young man, this is all about incompetence. When the board voted to create your position, I opposed it. I was even more vehement after I met you. I wasn't convinced then that you were ready to handle this position. Reverend Wingate is demanding, and rightly so. We like to think of ourselves as the preeminent church in this city. Your behavior has only served to tarnish that reputation. What do you have to say for yourself?"
Elvis stared unflinchingly at Harlan Finnegan. "If you're so concerned that Max stay, then Archibald should have let him do what he wanted." Nathaniel Jurgen chuckled. Harlan wheeled around and stared him down.
"How dare you!" shouted Archibald. "I should fire you right now. We've met about this, so it's your responsibility. You have no right telling me what to do. A true minister knows how to protect the church he serves, not look for reasons to justify your failure. Harland already said it. He wasn't pleased to have you join our staff. I went to bat for you. I told him you'd learn, that you'd grow into the position. To have you sit here and accuse me of being the cause of your failure just tells me that I was the one who was mistaken. I am personally embarrassed and ashamed."
Elvis was seething. As Archibald ranted, Elvis pulled out his phone and typed out a text.
"The least you can do is show me the courtesy of looking at me when I talk to you. Clearly, this just shows your lack of character. Gentlemen, may I suggest we vote right now to have him fired immediately?" asked Archibald.
"Check your email," said Elvis calmly.
"What?"
demanded Archibald. "I said, check your email."
"This is highly inappropriate," said Harlan as he spoke to the rest of the deacons. "See, this is the kind of thing Archibald has been telling us about."
Elvis had heard enough. There's only so much slander a guy can take. "You know what? If you're going to fire me, then at least show me this one courtesy. You talk all high and mighty, then act like it. Archibald, check your email, then decide my fate." Harlan stood fully erect and menacing.
"Nobody talks to me that way."
"But you have no problem talking to others that way. Nice double standard," Elvis snapped back. Archibald broke in.
"Harlan, it's okay. This will only take a second."
Archibald focused on his computer with Harlan looking over his shoulder. "Alone, Harlan," said Elvis. Harlan glared at Elvis.
"You call me Mr. Finnegan,"
demanded Harlan as he walked around the desk. Archibald opened his email. His eyes flared.
"Gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, I would like a moment alone with Elvis."
"Archibald, may I remind you why we are here?"
demanded Harlan.
Harland, may I remind you that I'm still senior pastor of this church? Elvis is a member of my staff, and I need to have a moment alone with him. Right now.
Please, said Archibald. The confused group of deacons slowly left the office. Harland was the last to leave. He leaned over to Elvis.
I don't know what you're up to, but it's not going to save your job. I promise you that.
Archibald waited until the door was closed.
Lock it,
Archibald ordered. Elvis complied.
How did you get this?
That's the first thing you have to say?
What do you expect?
I'm sorry, perhaps?
I don't have to apologize to you,
said Archibald. You're going to have to apologize to somebody, said Elvis. He could feel his heart beating in his chest.
How dare you dictate to me what I need to do? I'll ask you again, how did you get these?
I took them.
You were spying on me.
No, that was discovered completely by accident, but I had my suspicions. At the Finnegans, I saw you pinch Martha. I don't think anyone else saw it, but I did, said Elvis.
Can I assume others know?
Nope.
You've told no one?
Nope, not unless I need to, said Elvis.
Are you threatening me? You've got a lot of nerve.
Me? I just spent the better part of the morning having my character assassinated. It was tough to keep my mouth shut being lectured on integrity by the likes of you. You may not like me, but I promise you, by the end of the day, we'll both be in the same boat. Archibald rocked back in his chair.
I don't think so.
No?
You know nothing,
sneered Archibald. I know enough.
Enough to do what? If you think this will help you keep your job, you are a fool. You are done here. Get that through your thick skull. We're done,
said Archibald with force. Go ahead, insult me. You'll be fired too. All I have to do is show Harland. He'll kill you. Archibald laughed.
You know nothing. Nothing.
Fine. Let's let him decide how much I know. Elvis got up and reached for the door.
Elvis, stop. Sit.
Why should I? Shouted Elvis in frustration.
Because he already knows.
Elvis felt like all the air was sucked from the room. Archibald laughed.
See, this is way bigger than you, said Archibald.
Then explain it to me. Harland might know, but the rest of the church doesn't. They'll have something to say even if Harland won't, said Elvis.
What good will that do?
Think about it from my perspective. What have I got to lose? You and your cronies have spent the last who knows how long destroying my character. If I'm done, at least I can take you out with me.
You do not want to do that,
said Archibald calmly. Give me a reason, said Elvis. He put his hands on Archibald's desk and leaned forward. Archibald looked out the window of his office for a couple of seconds, then turned back to Elvis.
You should sit down for this,
he explained. Elvis slowly went back to his seat.
There's more to this than you know,
said Archibald. You've already said that. Get to the point.
Show some respect. I'm still your senior pastor.
This time Elvis laughed. No, you're not. You already said I'm all but fired. As far as I'm concerned, you're just some punk with an ego who can't keep his pants zipped. Unless you start talking, and I mean right now, so help me, you'll learn the whole new meaning of scorched earth. Archibald didn't move. He just dropped his head.
All right. I had been at Evergreen a year when I noticed two things. At the time, they were unrelated. First, I noticed Martha. I'm sure you can see what I mean.
No, not really, said Elvis stubbornly. Archibald ignored Elvis's comment.
The next thing I noticed was an irregularity with the church finances. Money was not being channeled where it was supposed to go. A lot of it. I started doing some digging and I discovered that Harland was embezzling money. He was taking funds that were supposed to be going to missions. This church has a reputation for being overly generous to mission organizations around the world. Harland built that reputation to cover his business losses. He is not the businessman he leads people to believe.
Elvis raised an eyebrow. Go on.
When I challenged him, well, he was desperate to save face. At first, I used it to get a better salary, but that was not enough. Later on, I negotiated, well, I was able to make other arrangements.
What arrangements?
Do I have to spell it out? That's when Martha and I, well, you know. You have the pictures.
You sick perverts! Harlan pimped out his own wife to protect his reputation? Idiots!
Don't judge me. Martha benefited from this too. Apparently Harlan's all talk in other areas too.
Elvis stood up and walked around his chair. He looked at the ceiling and shook his head in disbelief and disgust. I need a minute. I'll be in my office, he said. He turned around and stormed out of the office. The deacons were waiting in the reception area. Harlan tried to stop him.
Where do you think you're going, young man?
Elvis stopped, stood up as tall as he could, and smiled at Harlan. Come with me, old man. Let's talk. Elvis grabbed his arm and pulled him down the hall into his office. After closing the door, Elvis pushed Harlan into a chair. You sanctimonious puke, I know about you, your failed business, how you pimped out your wife to protect your stupid reputation. I know, I have the pictures to prove it. I'll burn you.
Shut
up, I've heard enough of your voice. It grates on my nerves. Here's how this is going to work, said Elvis.
What about Archibald?
He doesn't matter. What matters is how bad you want to keep your church.
Are you threatening me?
Stammered Harlan. I have 2 words for you. Scorched earth. Harlan flinched. For the first time since Elvis had been at Evergreen, Harlan looked vulnerable. He refused to look at Elvis. Instead, he stared at a calendar on the wall.
What do you want?
I want out. I want to go to another church, and I want you to make it happen. From what I understand, you have pull in the denomination, said Elvis.
And?
What do you mean, and?
What else do you want from me?
Elvis gave Harlan a confused look. Harlan shook his head with derision.
How much do you want? Young man, you have much to learn about extortion.
I'm not interested in your money, protested Elvis.
Of course you are. Why else did you bring me here? Speak to me in private? If you had any integrity whatsoever, you would have had me exposed immediately. You didn't do that. You went after Archibald. If I know him, he's quivering like a pile of jello, the coward. You brought me here to negotiate. I'm not sure if I'm proud or disgusted. You took a lot of abuse from us. I thought it was because you were weak. Now I am not so sure. How long have you had this information?
Elvis's mind raced. He wanted to lead him on, make Harlan think he was as smart as he thought he was. Long enough. Harlan smirked.
Very good. You know, the 2 of us could do amazing things in this church. Archibald is a fool. Sure, he made one clever move in his life, but I think you're smart. I think you have learned the game.
Harlan fiddled with a pen that was lying on Elvis's desk.
We could have Archibald fired and have you moved up to senior pastor. How would you like to be the pastor of the flagship church of the denomination?
Elvis paused, then shook his head. No, I want out. With a golden parachute.
It cannot be done. The economy is poor. The church cannot afford it.
The church can't afford the scandal that'll break out when I blow this up. If I'm not mistaken, the deacons are still waiting outside Archibald's office, said Elvis. He turned to go to the door.
You do that and you can kiss your career goodbye.
Why, because you'll ruin me? I promise you, if I go down, you'll go down even harder. You'll lose your marriage, your business, your reputation, and you'll lose your precious church, whatever that is. What a joke. I'm sure Grandpa'd roll over in his grave. We'll both be nobodies. Of course, according to you, I'm already a nobody. You have a lot more to lose than I do, Harlan. The 2 stared each other down. Elvis suddenly realized, why am I waiting for you? See ya, Harlan. He burst through the door, slamming it behind him.
Wait, I'll get you what you want,
said Harlan. Elvis poked his head back in his office. And what's that exactly?
2 months' salary and I will pull a few strings to get you into a different church. Any church in particular?
I'll agree to the salary. As for the church, I want something more appropriate to my age group. Perhaps something with a newer focus. No hymns and someplace I won't have to run into you.
Agreed. If this is the last time I ever see you, I will not shed a tear. Oh, and I do not ever want to see those pictures posted on the internet or in someone else's hands. Is that understood?
I'll make sure the pictures vanish forever. Oh, and the feeling's mutual, said Elvis. He paused. Since this is it, let me say one thing. This church is a disgrace. It's the farthest thing from a church I've ever seen. No love, no vision for others. It's cold and institutional. Church is not a business, said Elvis.
You're wrong, young man. Church is a business. We sell hope.
The gospel is not for sale, said Elvis.
Of course it is. Everything is for sale. It's the nature of life.
So what's the going rate for hope nowadays?
In your case, 2 months' salary in a new church.
Archibald pushed his way into Elvis's office and closed the door.
All right, what's the plan?
Harland and Elvis looked at each other and smiled.
I'll meet with you later, Archibald,
said Harland. Elvis left the church offices feeling dirty. He did what was best for him, but he wasn't sure what he did was best for Evergreen. Elvis pushed the thought from his mind. He didn't have to worry about this church anymore. When he arrived home, he called Chelsea. He got her voicemail. Hi, it's Elvis. Just wanted to give you a call. I wanted to talk to you first before someone else does. Call me as soon as you get this. Bye. Elvis started supper. A knock at the door pulled him away from his hamburger helper. He was still wearing an oven mitt when he opened the door. It was Harvey. A flash of light was the only thing Elvis saw when he crashed to the floor. Harvey reached down and pulled him back to his feet. The first sense he regained was his smell. He could tell Harvey was wearing leather gloves. "What are you doing?" Elvis shouted. "What do you think?" said Harvey right before punching Elvis in the stomach. Elvis stumbled back into the living room. "Why?" was all Elvis was able to choke out. "I'm here to make sure you don't go back on your arrangement with Mr. Finnegan," said Harvey. He swung a backhand across Elvis's mouth. Elvis could taste the blood, and his tongue played with a couple of his loose teeth. "What makes you think I wouldn't?" "It's not what I think. It's what Mr. Finnegan wants. Apparently you played him pretty well today. Enjoy the victory, kid. You won't win the war. Not if I have anything to say about it," said Harvey. Elvis was sprawled out on the couch. Harvey stood over him. "So, is this what you do? This is your real job at Evergreen? You know where the bodies are buried?" "Maybe." "This is stupid. If I go to the police, you'll get arrested. Why do this?" "See, you still haven't learned nothing. Right now I'm in a meeting with Mr. Finnegan and Archie Wingate. Get it?" "Apparently not," said Elvis sarcastically. "You've had a terrible accident, or you stopped a burglar from robbing your home. I don't know. I'm not really here," said Harvey. He gave Elvis another shot in the face. Blood poured from his broken nose. How comforting." "I also have a message from Mr. Finnegan. Stay away from Chelsea. It's already arranged. She's going to marry Paul. Capiche?" "Yeah," said Elvis. He was fading in and out of consciousness. Harvey grabbed him by the hair to keep his head from falling forward. "Don't fade on me yet. I'm not done. I've got one more thing to ask you. Did you learn anything?" "Yeah, your church sucks." Harvey laughed. "Too stupid to live." Elvis didn't respond. He let out soft groans. "I don't ever want to see or hear from you again. Ever." "It's mutual," whispered Elvis. Harvey leaned in. "What'd you say?" Elvis could feel Harvey's ear by his lips. Elvis bit as hard as he could. The pain in his mouth and jaw almost made him black out. Harvey reared back, holding the side of his head. Blood poured down his body. "I guess you were at my place after all." He spit out a piece of Harvey's ear. Harvey ran out the door. Elvis fell across the couch. Just before he slipped into unconsciousness, he wondered if this was really worth all the effort. Thank you for listening to The Pastor Who Hated Church, written by Timothy G.A. Cooper, narrated by Greg Cooper. Tune in next week to hear the next chapter in Elvis Jung's Tale of Redemption.